welcome back to this episode about arrays. An array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. Arrays are very important in PHP because you will use them a lot, and I mean a lot. So let's say that you want to save all the cars that you've ever got. Based on the previous videos, the way you would have done that is let's create a variable, say cars1 is equal to BMW. Another variable is cars2 is equal to Audi. And I add a third car, which is car3, and let's set it equal to Mercedes. Right now, we only have 3 cars, but what if we had 100? Would you just create 100 variables? Or what if you have a large database and you want to loop through it and find a specific car? The best solution is to create an array. An array can hold many values under one single name, and you can access the values by referring to an index number. To show you how an array actually works, let's look at this picture. Right now, you can see one gigantic box with small boxes inside of it. So 7 is a small box, 11 is a small box, and so on. All the small boxes have a value: 7, 11, 6, 55, 98. All these boxes are assigned to a key, which is also called an index. An index always starts with 0 and goes up until the amount of values that you have stored inside of your array. An array always has a lower bound and upper bound, and this is basically the lowest index and the highest index. So the lowest index, the lower bound, is always equal to 0, and the upper bound depends on the amount of values you have inside of your array. So let's continue with our car example, and let's create an array. The way you initialize an array is simply by creating a variable, and we want to store more than one car, so we will call it cars, and set it equal to array, followed by a set of parentheses and a semicolon. Inside the parentheses, you want to add the car names, but you need to remember that you need to separate the values with a comma. So let's say that our first car is a BMW, comma, second one is an Audi, and the third one is a Mercedes. Like I've said before, BMW is assigned to 0, Audi is assigned to 1, and Mercedes is assigned to 2. But what if you just want to print out one name and not all 3 of them? This can be done with an echo. So let's say that we want to echo out cars followed by brackets, because we want to specify the index number that we want to print. So let's say that we want to print out the Audi. BMW is 0, Audi is 1. So let's put the 1 inside of it. Let's save it, refresh the browser, and you can see that the output is Audi. And if we change the 1 to 2, the output will be Mercedes, and if we put on 4, you can see that we get an error message because 4 doesn't exist. An array can have more than string values. You can add integers, string, floats. You can even add another array inside of your array. You can add booleans and so on. Let's create a new array, and let's say my car is equal to array followed by my car's name. So I have an Audi from 2015, and the amount of kilometers is 75,304. This is just a random number. Let's save it, refresh the browser, and we still get an error. Let's change it to 2, and you can see that nothing's happening. And that's alright, because right now we don't have an error. So let me introduce you to something new. Let's create a var_dump. A var dump is a function that displays structured information about one or more expressions that includes its type and value. Let's add parentheses, and inside the var dump, let's add my car variable. So let's refresh the browser, zoom out a little bit. Let's also add one break. You can see that the output is something weird. And it basically says that we just created an array, and inside our curly brackets, You have a key that always starts with 0, like I said. The value of 0 is a string with the name Audi, and the same can be done with index number 1, which is an integer of 2015, and with index 2, which is a float to 75,304. The equal to greater than sign is an associative array. We will be discussing an associative array in the next episode. So to make the var dump a little bit more readable, we can replace it by something that we did a couple episodes back, which is called print_r. Let's save it, refresh the browser, and you can see that we just created something that is human readable. That's the biggest difference between print_r and var dump. So underneath our cars, let's create a new array, and let's call it cars2, set it equal to array, followed by a set of parentheses, and let's add 3 new cars inside of it. Let's say that the first car is a Volvo, the second one is a Chevy, and the last one is a Volkswagen. Right now, we created 2 arrays. There is a predefined function in PHP that lets you merge these 2 arrays. This can be pretty handy if you work on a complex application, and later on, you created a new array and you just want to merge the 2 information together. What we can do beneath our myCar array, or let's add cars2 to make it more readable right here. We can use a function that we want to say that we want to add cars2 information inside cars1. So let's say cars is equal to array underscore merge, followed by a set of parentheses. And what we want to do is basically say that we have our first array, which is cars, and we want to add the information of cars2 inside of it. Let's save it. Let's var dump cars again. Let's refresh. Let me add a break real quick. Let's echo out a break. Let's save it. And let's also change var dump to print r. So what we just did is we already had our first array, the BMW, Audi, Mercedes, which are in cars, and we merged our cars2, which has a Volvo, a Chevy, and a Volkswagen, into one array. Thank you for watching this episode about arrays. In the next episode, I will be talking about associative arrays.